Today I'm in the kitchen making a chocolate pumpkin bundt cake. It's fall, so 'tis the season. The first thing I want to do is I want to take my 1 stick of butter. You need 1 stick of butter for this recipe. I'm going to melt this in the microwave. So I'm just going to cut it up and put it in a separate bowl. Don't get it too hot. You just want to melt it, just until it's just melted, and set it to the side. Next in my bowl, I want to add 1.5 cups of sugar. And then I'm going to add my melted butter. And I'm going to give that a whisk until it's combined. Now, I'm going to use a whisk in this recipe, but you can use a hand mixer if you want. So now to that, I want to add a 1/2 cup of room temperature buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you can use regular milk. It'll work out just fine. Give that a mix until combined. And then to this, we're going to add about 8 ounces of canned pumpkin. Once you add your 8 ounces of canned pumpkin, you want to give that a good mix until it's well combined with your butter and your sugar. To this, we're going to add a tablespoon of vanilla extract. And then we're going to add 2 beaten eggs. So 2 large room temperature beaten eggs. And you want to give this a mix, a good whisk until it's well combined. Now next, we're going to add to this a little bit of our dry ingredients. First, we're going to add to this about a teaspoon of salt. I'm using fine sea salt, but you can use whatever salt you have. And then we're going to add a teaspoon of baking soda to this. Also, we want to add about 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. And you want to give those ingredients a good mix until it's well combined. So we're almost done here. It's not much left to add, but we will start to add once we get these combined, our flour, and it's going to be 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I am using White Lily all-purpose flour, and I did not sift it. Now I'm going to just start to stir in my flour. I need to whisk this until it's well combined, but I'm going to stir it in first so that the flour does not clump up on my whisk. So I'll get it started with my spatula first, then I'm going to switch over to my whisk. Go ahead and give this a whisk until it's nice and smooth. And once we get this well combined and it's nice and smooth, we're going to get ready to prepare our chocolate for the chocolate mixture of this recipe. So set that pumpkin to the side, and in a separate bowl, I'm going to add to it 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. Now, I'm using semi-sweet because that's what I had on hand. If you want to use milk chocolate, I'm sure you could, or you could use dark chocolate, whatever kind of chocolate chips you have. Just make sure that they have some type of sugar to it. And I'm going to get ready to melt those in the microwave. But before I do, I'm going to add a tablespoon of oil to that. I'm using grapeseed oil, but you can use whatever kind of oil you have on hand. And we're going to melt these in the microwave. And it took mine about 1.5 minutes to get nice and smooth. Now that it's melted, I'm going to add to my chocolate 1 cup of my pumpkin batter. And we're going to mix that together until it's well combined. And this is what we're going to use to layer our bundt. Okay, and so let me just say, for this, I'm using a small bundt pan. It's about an 8-inch bundt pan. I think it's like 7 or 8 cups. It's a small one. So if you don't have a small bundt cake pan, you can also do this in a loaf pan, and just make it a loaf cake as well. So, and you probably would split it into two loaf pans, I would guess. But I'm just layering my different batters, and then I'm gonna swirl them together. How you layer this is entirely up to you. You can layer it or you can alternate it. That's one way of doing it. Just alternate the different scoops, and so it's throughout. However you want to do it. I'm the type of person that by the time I get to this point of the recipe, I kind of lose my patience. So I just want to dump it all in. And then I'm going to take my chopstick here and give it a swirl. This baked in a oven, a 325 degree oven for about an hour. So 325 preheated oven for about an hour it baked. And then I let it cool in the pan for like 10 minutes before I flipped it out. And once I flipped it out, and I did spray my bundt cake pan with baking spray. I forgot to say that. I do apologize. But this is our bundt cake. I am going to chop this with a ganache glaze once it completely cools. And that is just 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips to a half a cup of hot heavy cream with a splash of vanilla. And then I just whisked it until it was nice and smooth and added it to our cooled cake. The cake did cool for about an hour before I added this ganache glaze to it. I did not let the ganache glaze cool, however, I just added it to it right away. And then I topped it with some fall sprinkles, which of course is optional. And let's give it a cut and see what our slice looks like. This is always the most exciting part. You want to see what the slice looks like. Thank you so much for joining me making this chocolate pumpkin bundt cake. It smelled absolutely divine and tasted even better. Happy baking.